Hello everyone, I'm Steve. Mark's working late tonight, and this is Smokey, Steve, and Mark. Either welcome or welcome back, and happy Thursday. The week's getting there. We're getting there. It's almost well. So I hope everyone's well. I hope everyone is safe. Look after yourselves. Look after the people you care about. There's so much going on. I can't even make a list of things that need thoughts and prayers, but you know. So, today is Thursday, once again. I thought rather than coffee, we'd have a little tea today. Decaf, because I'm a little wound up. And just kind of relax into the series. So thank you everyone who watched last week when we did Storytime, and I did my Storytime about prison food, which got a lot of good feedback, I have to say, and people had requested some other prison stories. Now, in context, as I said in the previous video, I did not spend an enormous amount of time in jail. I was in county jail, not state prison. So my experiences are somewhat limited. They may be a tad unique because, obviously, if you haven't been paying attention, I'm gay as a picnic basket, and it was a little bit different, maybe my experience in jail than some other people's. So I'd be happy to revisit that, maybe even do like a short series, because there's some other topics for story times I've been thinking about. So there may be some of those coming up on the way. Last week's inspiration for the video was the guy who wanted to get organic food in the jail after he was arrested at the Capitol riot. This week, it's something a little bit different. I was in actually this morning, a Zoom meeting, because life is Zoom, and it was about using appropriate and respectful language for people who are in the LGBTQIA squared. It's very long now. Community. It was very different than when I first came out. I've been out for about 20 years. Yeah, I've been out longer than I've been in now. I came out when I was 18. I'm 38. So it's very different language. And so I start during this meeting because it's getting a little droney and we're all in the chat and it's an hour and a half of sitting. I had Bandit next to me, but still. And I'm thinking, what was it like when I was like 18? You know, I used to go to little protests and advocate, and I would scream back at the, mean protesters who would yell at us and tell us we were all burning in hell. You know, I imagine myself to be quite the advocate with a torch and shield, like that. I was just a scrawny, scared 18-year-old trying to fit in. Not that I didn't care about the causes we were talking about, but I was, little poser trying to look cool. And one of the things that sticks out about my younger years is my behavior. Now, of course, I'd also mentioned I used to drink a lot. And college was no different. I drank during college as well. And I also had untreated bipolar disorder at the time. Now, let me put in context. We're going to be talking about promiscuity. Promiscuity. Webster's defines promiscuity as, promiscuous, having or involving many sexual partners, not restricted to one sexual partner, or few sexual partners, not restricted to one class, sort, or person. So, indiscriminate partners. Now, to just kind of lay the groundwork for this, I came out, I was 18. I was not super comfortable in my skin in many ways, including as far as my sexuality. It took me a while to get into my skin physically. What do I like? What do I not like? All that kind of stuff. By the way, this isn't going to be 25 minutes of gay sex stories. I promise. And then I kind of was finding my way into what I liked. But I also had these inner feelings. Aside from the fact that I had a mental illness, aside from the fact that I was drinking a lot, I was also very lonely, very emotionally needy, and really, really wanted approval and wanted to be liked. And I wanted a boyfriend at almost all costs, which is so dangerous and such a bad thing to have happen. But when I first got into a relationship, I got into a relationship right away. I got into a relationship for 2 days and then came out 2 days after. And it was my first, so, my first boy. He could have been the Elephant Man. I would have been thrilled because he liked me. A boy liked me. I was thrilled. And I really wanted him to continue to like me. So I would agree to things that it was experimenting still. I didn't know what I liked and didn't like. But I found out pretty quickly. And kept it to myself because I wanted to maintain the relationship. So I would agree to things I didn't really want to do. And I would go along with things I didn't really agree with because I didn't want to upset him, because what if he left? Because I'll never meet another man again. I'm 18, and the first and last person, all that drunk. I was a drunk, ecstasied out 18-year-old should not be allowed to date. And yet there I was. So I had that first relationship, and I was kind of a serial monogamist for a while. Like, I'd have a relationship, and then there'd be like a 3-month break where I'd have a slut phase, and then I'd get into like an 18-month relationship, and then there'd be a slut phase, and then there'd be more. And my sexuality is tied into my drinking a lot. Like I said, not being comfortable in my skin, the booze kind of greased the wheels and let me loosen up a little bit. By virtue of that, most of my encounters were while I was impaired, which got dangerous several times, one very extremely dangerous time. But it helped me like feel like I could fit in, like I could be nice. And having been fat for my entire life, up until I starved myself down to like 150 pounds, it was nice to be noticed, to be liked. Girls never looked at me like that because, well, they could tell I was gay. And I grew up in a small town, and, there was only a handful of gay men in the most predictable of places, and they were all much older than me. So when I left home and went to, like, a bigger city, I was like, guys are looking at me. It's nice to be noticed. It's nice to be liked. They seem to find me attractive. People are flirting with me. My heart swelled. It was like this big rush of worthiness just like blew over the front of me. I'm like, they want to sleep with me. And you know what was different? And it's a shallow world, but I was swimming in it at the time. All I had to do was show up, and I was pretty at the time. I had braces, I had a full head of hair. I was so hard on myself. I look back now and say, shut up and enjoy it. But, I didn't have to be funny. I didn't have to be witty. I didn't have to pay for everyone's drinks. I didn't have to be the one that drove everyone around. I didn't have to contribute shit. I didn't have to overcompensate for anything. All I had to do was show up and bat my eyes. It was the most empowering thing at the time in the world to be that shallow, to be the one who could turn somebody else down, to be the one who said, no, thank you. I don't think you're my type. That power is very fleeting, but I was drunk on it at the time. So, now that started to fade after a little bit. I'm going through college. Obviously, of course, me being the masochist that I am, my drug of choice is the only one with calories, aside from maybe pot brownies. And I'm gaining weight. So I do the alcoholorexia thing for a while. I'm not going to eat. I'll just drink my calories. That barely works. And I still had puffy drunk face. So as I'm going into like my sophomore, junior year of college, I'm blowing up. I get a boyfriend, lose a boyfriend, get a boyfriend, lose a boyfriend, sleep around in the middle. And this is where I started sleeping around in a way that was a little more transactional. And I don't mean prostitution. Exactly. I'll let you decide. And I'm not ashamed of what happened. I don't know what you would call it exactly. But I would go to a bar. I was underage. I was like 19 or 20. And I would take my really cute roommate with me. So I'd be like, he's cute, and I'm coming with. He was like my shield of attractiveness. Because I had put on weight. I didn't have much money. I was only working part-time when I was in school. And we didn't have money to even buy drinks when we would go out. I would sidle up to a guy at the bar who had the most money in front of him and chit-chat and flirt and talk and, lead him to believe that maybe this was going to be going somewhere as long as he kept buying me drinks. And then I would, say I was going to the ATM and duck out the back door when he wanted to, like, try to make a move at the end of the night. The bartenders caught on, and I was, within a few months, barred from going back in there. But I would, every so often, go home at the end of the night with the person. And it was kind of like, it was like the afterthought, like the lure and the chase of the flirting and the seduction was all very satisfying. And then when it would get to the bedroom, it'd be like, well, this wasn't even the goal. The seduction was the goal. That was what made me feel powerful, and it made me feel like I'm in control of the situation. It also was proof to me that if someone thought I was attractive, then I was attractive. Because me putting on what at the time, I think I was like 108, I was like 30 pounds thinner than I am now, and I felt fat. And in some circles in gay culture, being like 100 5 pounds is fat. Not exactly, but not far. So I was too fat to play with the other boys. So I'd hang out with the older guys who were just wanted attention, and I just wanted attention too. And, you know, two lonely people sometimes will do what two lonely people do when they have too many drinks. And I was getting something out of it, not just the alcohol. I was getting some companionship and some validation. So if this person finds me attractive, then I'm not ugly. Um, if this person finds me attractive, then I'm not. But then all of a sudden I had to be interesting again. Because now I'm not just cute, so I can't just go out. Now I have to be funny. Now I have to be witty. Now I have to be have thoughtful conversation and know about current events and all that shit. I can't be the shallow little twink boy who's just, what? Oh my god, that's so hot. You know, I was doing it. I loved it. It was so little work. I'd go out and every drink would be bought for me. But, you know, so it goes. I tried to get thin again later. Didn't work. Once you lose your hair, it doesn't matter how thin you get. So it doesn't matter anymore. So that's the kind of lecherous drunk period that I was going through at the time. And it extended beyond that as well. Again, in out of relationship, 3 months through slut phase after that, another year for another person, another slut phase through there. And I developed this kind of lecherous drunk thing. Online dating and apps wasn't a thing at the time. It was the early 2000s, early to mid 2000s. And I was meeting most of my partners online, but it was in like, you'd go to your PC and log into a chat room that had green screen with like weird print, like it looked pink at the walls when you were done staring at it. And I was living in Philadelphia, so when you're talking, I mean, I'm in a rural area now, so when people are on those casual encounter ads, it's like you gotta pack a cooler for the drive because we're up in Bumblefuck. But when I was living in Philadelphia, it's like you're 4 blocks away, you're 3 blocks away. And I was so lonely and so desperate for approval that I mean, almost, I would say it was a few nights a week. I would try to look for somebody. And my standards were so low. I mean, my apartment had no air conditioning, and I remember literally putting on Craigslist, will exchange favors for spending the night with someone who has central air. I mean, I'm dead ass serious. Because I was having fun. And I did it so often that I worked my way through all of the people I thought I was interested in and started back at the beginning again with the same guy. I didn't even recognize him until I got there and I looked around. I thought, I've been here before. I've been here before. I had done a whole loop. Not all the men in Philadelphia, but close, I guess. And then again, that's the proof of worthiness, the proof of love that was coming at the end of it. Because after I had my last breakup in 2006, there was nobody until Mark in 2014. But I lived alone in a small filthy vodka-reeking studio apartment. And I was single from middle of 2006 to the middle of 2007 with only a break to come home for a couple months on FMLA. So I would go home, drink, go out, try to find somebody. Every so often somebody would come home. I don't know why they would come to my apartment. It was a pit, you know. I mean, it was Beaumont bad. And meet them out at a bar, they're drunk, you're drunk, you go home. And maybe they stay the night, maybe they don't. But you do whatever you're going to do with your partner. And then it's over. And then you're laying there. And maybe you cuddle. Usually you don't cuddle with a trick because that's too much. It's like sex with a prostitute. Like no kissing, no cuddling, but you'll do everything else. I always wanted like the boyfriend experience myself. But maybe you're cuddling. And I remember this happening a couple times. Cuddling and thinking, I don't even know you. You still smell like tequila from the night before. I don't even know who the person is. I don't know their last name. I'm in and out on their first name. But for a split second while you're cuddling, you kind of lie to yourself and pretend there's somebody else. Someone that you used to love or someone that you want to that you don't have right now. And for a moment, even though you're with a stranger, you start to have like feelings, not for that person, but you get those lovey-dovey feelings. And they're fleeting because they get up at 5 and run out and take a shower at your place and run to work and it's over. But for a hot second, 2 strangers in the night can trick themselves into feeling like something really emotionally special is happening. And it's more often than not, I would say it's not. I remember sitting there thinking, this is beautiful. I don't want this moment to end. And then I open my eyes and I look and I'm like, I don't know him. I'm thinking of my ex. Or I'm thinking of a guy I used to know 4 years ago that I wish I had started a relationship with, and that's who I wish this was, and that's who I'm hugging. This body is just a body, you know. So it had very little, the sex ultimately had very little to do with sex, oddly enough. It had to do with meeting all these other needs that had very little to do with my libido at the time. So why would I share promiscuous stories? One of the things I like, and I think I'm liking it about Storytime a little bit, and I've heard some comments from other videos as well, that through talking about experiences like that, like promiscuous behavior, which I hope I've discussed in some kind of respectful, not too dodgy sort of way. I don't care about monetization. It's okay. But talking about it more openly, a little more easily, I think, not that I'm inviting people to share anything personal in a comment section or anything like that, but I think it's something that some people do, and it's taboo to talk about. Wouldn't invite anyone to share parts of their past they weren't comfortable sharing either. But it's something that I did go through, and that I'm okay talking about. It's not something I do anymore. And I think it makes it a more easy topic of discussion, too. And it might be a part of life people don't know about. I always take for granted that I've lived like a little hard. I mean, I would say I had a privileged upbringing. You know, I went to private school. Money wasn't overflowing growing up. We had plenty of hot dogs and spaghetti. But my parents worked 5 jobs between the two of them, I think, and put us through private school and encouraged us to go to college. And me and my brother and sister all did. Sorry, needed a break there. So I did come from a relatively, I would say, privileged background. Good schooling, good parents, brought us up in a faith, you know, and practiced that, and they practiced it at home. They weren't hypocrites. And they set us up for success in life. And my brother and sister and I have done, you know, relatively well. So I think that that's been important in giving us, you know, a heads up on some of these things. And I think sometimes people would take away that, like, well, you come from a good family and you're smart and you're this and that. How could you have done all these things? Didn't you know any better? Probably, but I was lonely and I was sad. You can't think your way out of lonely and sad and desperate and skin hungry and just, you know, it didn't get rid of it. It didn't get rid of it. That you can't, no. And I've always been more emotional and more hard on the surface. I know you guys probably, between Mark and I, Mark's probably a little bit more emotive than I am. I'm a little more of the, you know, the straight man out of it. Not hetero. You know what I mean. God. I did this whole fucking workshop today on gender identity, and I think I'm just going to start calling everyone they, just to avoid confusion. So he's a little more of the, you know, vivacious, and I'm a little more withdrawn. But I'm probably the most emotional person outwardly, I would say, in my family. And I think part of that actually does come by virtue of having lived through some uncomfortable experiences, most of which I created myself, and kind of came through the other end of them. And it's satisfying now to look back and say those things are done. Some of it's cringeworthy, but I spent a while pretending that stuff kind of didn't happen. I was like, no, I wasn't a lecherous drunk. Well, I was, you know, it happened. And there was consequences from that. There was a number of consequences that came from that specific behavior. Sleeping around. It doesn't matter why I was doing it. I was doing it. And doesn't matter that I was trying to be safe doing it. I was doing it. And it was doing as much damage to me at the time, emotionally, as it was being socially irresponsible of me at the time. Not saying sex is bad, don't do it, get married, be monogamous. Do your life and do your life how you like it. But for the boundaries I had for myself, I wasn't even sticking to them. I had very few boundaries when it came to relationships like that. And people in their own relationships have theirs. My own personal opinion, totally personal opinion. Be safe. Don't lead anybody on. And what was the last one? Oh, don't screw around in 3 ways with a couple. Someone always catches feelings. That's my guess. So those are the kind of things I stuck by. And in a relationship, I prefer monogamy because I like attention. I like all the romantic attention on me when I'm in a relationship. So that's kind of how I roll. So having all those, that's from the Catholic upbringing too. It's weird what sticks and what doesn't, you know? So thank you for listening to my stories about my sordid past and the lessons I kind of took away from it and the things I was feeling. What I wanted to give you more, I hope that I gave, is more of a tour of my motivations and my emotions at the time and what was leading to it, and kind of explain, not excuse, explain. And I hope I was able to do that for you. One of the things I think I've decided I want to do with story times is kind of putting a very matter-of-fact light and having a very matter-of-fact discussion about some topics that maybe some people think are a little bit taboo. I'm putting myself out there a little bit, telling you about how I was a lecherous drunk. You may have guessed, you may hear this video and go, duh, I would have assumed, which is fine. I've alluded to as much throughout the channel. I've said as much. And like the video last week on prison food, it's not a topic people maybe think about ever, but there's some little stuff that goes behind it. There's some more things. It's more than just food. It's currency, it's love, it's community, it's friendship. You know, in jail, trading ramen noodles. Who knew there was that much behind it? So I like exposing some of those things and taking things that are not well known and kind of breaking them up and talking about them. It's kind of the thing I try to do with the reviews and the reactions that I did with Cynthia and do with Chantal, that it's not just about the specifics of the story, but what's the bigger picture, what's the bigger thing that's going on, and is there any takeaway from it? I got my takeaway from mine. I catch feelings fast, and I get hurt feelings pretty fast. So I have to take care of myself when it comes to getting close to people romantically, physically, in any of those ways. I am very happy that I'm in a good relationship, because I did find that I would rather be in no relationship than a good relationship. That came with age. That didn't come with... I didn't get that at like 19, 20, 25, or 30, actually. I didn't get that till after I met Mark, that I'd rather be in a good relationship. I'd rather be alone than be in a good relationship. So luckily I'm in a great relationship. That helps. The other lessons is that I would not throw my body around just to try to impress a guy, especially a guy that I wasn't really that attracted to. I don't need, male attention as proof of worth. Do I like when an attractive guy throws me some side eye? Yes, of course I do. It still gives me that chip on the shoulder thing. Oh, if the hottest guy in the club thinks I'm cute, then I must be cute, right? It's an old throwback to that. It's nice. It's the old still got it, wink, wink kind of thing. And if Mark doesn't mind it, then neither do I. So, again, thank you all for listening. Please do leave any suggestions below, any comments below, anything you think. Thank you again for the feedback from last week. I'll be using some of those comments as a jump off. Yes, there will be another prison story, maybe next week or the week after. I have a couple in the works, so I'll be able to work a few in, because y'all seem to like it. And I believe that's all she wrote. So thank you all for watching. Please do subscribe, hit the like button, and the notification bell on your way out so you get all the alerts when we have a new video and also when we go live. You can follow us on Facebook at SmokeySteveAndMarc, or on Instagram at SmokeySteveAndMarc, or on Twitter, our handle is at SmokeySteveA. Our email address and our contact information is also all listed down below as well. Thank you again, and we will catch up with you tomorrow. Thank you for watching. Bye.